engaged and civically active. So I'm going to introduce Alex, and he's going to say a couple words really quickly about the group.
All right, thank you so much. Allow me to stand on the already established protocol. My name is Alex Matere, and I come from Kenya. I run a youth organization that involves itself with youth policy together with mentorship in the political field. We are here under the invitation of the State's Department for a program called International Visitor Leadership Program, specifically on youth and civic engagement. And with our delegation, we have youth leaders from various countries in Africa and also Haiti. And allow me just to introduce their name and the country that they come from. Aziz Dabo from Burkina Faso, Andre Fodoup from Cameroon, Kabon Beni from Congo, DRC, Mamadou Ba from Guinea, Pedro Sideme from Haiti, Wilkins Cherisme from Haiti again, Mohamed Hamou from Morocco, Yenchale from Togo, Job Simon from Uganda, and Fumba Chama from, from Zambia. So our purpose for this visitation basically is to get an experience of the American life, specifically on what you have been able to develop in the youth space, in terms of political activity of the young people, in terms of the civic engagement of the young people, and also the measures that you've been able to put in place as a city and as a state to be in a position to develop the capacity of young people to contribute positively in the economic, in the social, and in the political pillars. And we are hoping to borrow best experiences and best examples to be able to implement them back to our respective countries so that we can grow together as one world. Thank you so much. God bless you.
I don't know, do we have any comments from council? Council members have any comments for our guests? Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam President. Man, what a pleasant surprise. I have to meet my brother from Burkina Faso because my brother and my cousin did an AfricanAncestry.com, and that's where my paternal grandfather is from. So I need to have time just to greet this brother.
Councilwoman Amobian, did you have a comment?
I just love reminding people that my name is Linda Omobian, and my husband is from Nigeria. He has been in this country 50 years, and we've been married 46. And it's wonderful to have all of you here from the various countries. So thank you for your visit.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thank you. Welcome to our city. Thank you for coming. We also have an agreement. In 2015, we penned an agreement with Mayor Vanda Poi from Akron, Ghana. And we have a very good relationship with them. A number of us have been over there before. A number of them have been here before. So we have a very good relationship. And I know my friend here, she could tell you much, much more because there's been a very good relationship, an exchange of educational and business and so on and so forth. So welcome to our city. Thank you for coming.
Councilman Malik? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I wanted to note that we're also developing a deep relationship with Morocco, and we have our colleague here from Tibu, Morocco, and there'll be exchanges going back and forth throughout 2024 that are already scheduled. Our dean of the College of Business at the University of Akron was to have been there this past week for a big entrepreneurship conference that they have, but had to postpone their trip. So they hope to be going with us in the spring, along with Adaptive Sports Ohio, and hopefully some representatives from our mayor's office and our city council would be great too. So this is something that in Morocco, Tibu is working across the whole continent of Africa. So several of the other visitors here are also in the field of sports for youth development, education, and entrepreneurship. So I'm really hoping this group that will blossom into more opportunities as well.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Madam President. Just briefly, I wanted to mention I had the opportunity to speak with the group just before this meeting for a very short period of time, but was honored to do so. And I always find myself being enriched by the discussions that we have with delegations from Global Ties. And in particular, everyone in this group is working on youth issues. And I think that, it really resonates with the work that we're doing here in Akron. One of the brothers said that the future is related to the youth, and I think we've talked a lot about this horseshoe, how Akron's future is related to whether young people growing up here see opportunity. So it's beautiful to have these exchanges, and thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to the continued partnership, especially with Mohammed from Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. If not, we want to say welcome again, and we hope that you enjoy your stay and visit here in Akron. We're going to move on with our regular scheduled agenda. Before you are the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion to approve the minutes passes 10-0 with one abstention.
Before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 11-0.
Okay. We do have 2 items up for public hearing this evening, and our clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, November 20th, 2023, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized detached garage with a home office at 2280 Tinkham Road. This notice was advertised in the Akron Beacon Journal on November 4th and on the Akron City Council website beginning October 31st, 2023.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Jason Butterworth is requesting permission to construct a detached structure with a 2-car garage, storage area for tools, and a home office. The proposed garage office would measure 42.5 feet in width by 38 feet in depth with a footprint of approximately 1,500 square feet of area. It would have a gabled roof to a height of 21 feet 4 inches. The structure would be sited behind the dwelling at the end of the driveway. Exterior construction materials would consist of a brick veneer on the facade from the ground up to about 3 feet and wood siding on the remainder. The gable roof will have dimensional shingles with the dormer on the front elevation to match the style of the house. Several windows will also be installed on all 4 elevations. The size of the structure would not be out of scale with this large 2-story primary dwelling along Tinkham Road. This property is well maintained, and this proposal will enhance and add value to the property. As such, the planning staff and planning commission recommend approval, subject to the conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 1? Just going to ask that you be sworn in by our clerk.
Madam President, the petitioner is joining us online, so if it's okay with you, I'll swear them both in at the same time. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to begin with those who wish to speak in favor, and I want to give the petitioner first opportunity. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you for the opportunity to appear this evening. Sorry by Zoom in my car, but I do appreciate the work that's gone into this application. Just to give a little bit of a backdrop to it, is the area in which I'm adding this two-car garage really is replacing two existing sort of dilapidated sheds. That something needs to be done. So I like to think that it's an improvement to the property, albeit minimal disruption to what was already here and the neighbors are accustomed to.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone
you.
else wishing to speak in favor?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Apostolette. And before I speak in favor of this, I want to also welcome you from the mother country, Africa. And as we build in our communities here in the United States of America, we hope that we set some example that will be encouraging, that when you go back home, that you have opportunities for your communities as well. I greet each of you in the name of Jesus Christ, who is the author and finisher of my faith. I'm very much in support of this, and I pray and hope that provisions and resources are made so that when the weather comes, the storms rise, and the seasons change, that this garage has all the resources it needs to avoid code violations, community challenges, and any type of damages to the property, the community, and the people who need this. I like the idea that they have a home office setting. I like the idea that they want to enhance and make the community that they live in to be an eye pleaser and not an eyesore. So I ask, and I encourage you to help whoever wants to maintain their property and make it a safe and a better place. Thank you, and welcome once again to each of you who are here this evening.
Thank you. So at this time, we're going to close our public hearing. If there's no one else that wishes to speak, Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer?
Aye.
Tanner?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
The committee wishes to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Thank you. Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. The commission, the planning department, and I know the ward council persons in favor may have a couple comments.
Sure. Councilman Malik?
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. Just briefly, there have been similar changes made in the neighborhood, and I think all of them are welcome. I've spoken to the rear property owner, I think, who would be probably most impacted, and I know they don't have an objection, so hopefully this is something we can approve.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer, Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Homobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 11-0. Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, November 20th, 2023, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to vary the required side yard setback to construct an addition at 2259 Cross Creek Trail.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Carol Vargo is seeking approval to construct an addition in the side yard of the residence. The variance is necessary as the proposed addition will sit 3.5 feet away from their east property line, which is less than the required 5 feet. The proposed structure measures 17.5 feet in width and 25 feet, 3 inches in length. The proposed structure would be clad in cedar siding to match the dwelling. There will be a door and 4 windows on the eastern face and a matching set of windows on the north face, as well as 2 skylights. The petitioner's home sits on a lot that is irregularly shaped. with a steep hill in the backyard and a side yard that creates challenges for putting on an addition. The proposed addition will create living space and will add value to this property and neighborhood without having negative effects on surrounding properties. The planning staff and planning commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against 2259 Cross Creek Trail?
For those that are online, I'll swear you in as well. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
We will begin with those who are online who wish to speak in favor. Can you hear us?
I'll speak in favor.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Hallie Bowie, architect with New Leaf Home Design, and my address is 1867 Brookshire Road in Akron. And the variance for this project is in keeping with the spirit of the zoning code and the setback requirements, and is, as you can see from the site plan, is just a tiny corner of the addition that we're doing and won't have any negative effects on the views of the neighboring property or their ability to do additions of their own in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Kara, was there anything that you wanted to share? Okay, all right. Thank you. Just want to make sure if you had an opportunity. We're going to now go with Apostolette here in Chambers.
I am in support of this. It seems the person has met the necessary requirements, and as you know, I'm a very strong advocate for the needs of women being met, and I see that there's a very powerful woman supporting that's involved in this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder of Mothers Lives Matter, Moms Lives Matters, and I don't hear enough, Council President, of the women in the community having the requirements being met, and I'm glad that the female that's involved in this has been able to meet the requirements. And please do pass this, because they have done what's necessary, and see to it that if they have any future needs, that you all would reach out to them. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, if there's no one else wishing to speak in favor or against, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
Thank you. I'd like to pull a committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for passage. The ward person, again, the commission and the planning department is in favor. We recommend approval.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 11-0.
Okay. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We'll now move to old business, and we'll begin with planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you. The committee would like to take time on 3 through and including 11, file 12 and 13. Those are the petitions for the conditional use we had just heard, and then time on the balance of the agenda. Thank you.
Time will be granted. We'll now move to rules. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, the Rules Committee has a substitute offered as an amendment. This is item 0 under new legislation. This substitute offered as an amendment is offered by President Somerville, Vice President Fusco, Councilman Neal, Councilwoman Mosley, and Councilman Malik. Resolution expressing sympathy for the innocent civilians victimized by the war in Israel and Palestine, condemning violence of any kind, affirming Akron's status as a welcoming community for those of the Jewish and Islamic religions and any other religion, encouraging residents to offer support and sincere condolences to members of the Jewish and Palestinian communities of Akron and all over the world, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
The report of the committee is for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to defer to some of the other sponsors. There was a lot of discussion this afternoon around this. Been a lot of discussion the past several weeks around this resolution here. And this afternoon we had a lot of healthy discussion about it. A lot of work has gone into this, and would like to see this as kind of a launching point in terms of moving forward with regards to our relationships not only with the Akronites that has family and history in Israel and in Palestine, but also with regards to everyone across the board. And that was discussed earlier today, that we need to strengthen those relationships. Our world is getting smaller. We can find out in a moment's instance what occurs on the other side of the world. And there's family and friends, and we maintain those relationships because of technology. And so our strength is by getting to understand and know and respect each other. And so we have all kind of committed to working on that initiative. We owe it to the future Akronites to do that work. So thank you, and we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. We did talk about this at length in the committee meeting, and obviously we've heard from many people over the past few weeks. I just wanted to kind of restate some of what I said at the committee meeting and dive into it a little bit more. As I said at the committee meeting, there's a lot of pain in our own community over what is going on right now in Gaza and the attack that happened in Israel on October 7th, and really, in the history of this entire conflict. And I think we as this body owe it to our community to recognize when there are significant events that are going on, even when they're going on overseas. I think that is what we did after the October 7th terrorist attack, with, I think, the reflection in hindsight that by that point, I think over 1,000 Palestinians had been killed in Gaza, and that reference to that loss of life would have been appropriate. And I certainly apologize for not pushing for that. In the same token, we have a situation right now in Gaza in which more than 10,000 people, over 12,000 people have been killed, including many, many children. And it is an ongoing crisis, and one in which this resolution urges a ceasefire, along with the release of people who are hostages and otherwise illegally imprisoned. And I think that's an important step to an ongoing humanitarian disaster that's going on. And the last point that I would make is that, I want to thank the sponsors, Councilwoman Mosley and Councilman Neal. I want to thank the people who originally drafted the legislation. And then I want to thank everyone who engaged in some of the conversations over the last week with Council President Somerville and Vice President Fusco and myself, including Imam Nader Taha from the Islamic Society, Brother Issam from the Islamic Society, Amir Zayed, who was there as well, and Rabbi Brown from Temple Israel, and
Daniel Blaine.
Sorry, it's been a long day. Daniel Blaine is the CEO of Jewish Akron, as well as Dr. Jadallah, who helped with the original drafting of the resolution. And I wanted to say something that those conversations were difficult for me, but I wanted to say something that I really appreciated upon reflection. I think in this moment it's important to try to find consensus and unity as much as possible, even when we speak on difficult things. But it was clear to me that those discussions would not have happened if not for more than a decade of work between Temple Israel and the Islamic Society of Akron and Kent in building relationships in which difficult conversations could happen. And so I want to thank everyone who has been a part of that work over the last decade and want to urge that work is probably never more important. And above all, I hope that this is an example of us seeking to preserve human life in an awful situation in our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Malik. Well said. Is there any other comments at this time? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we do have, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor? Roll call.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Homobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 11-0.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to move to Budget and Finance. Councilwoman Homobian.
Yes.
Oh, do you want read in?
Yes. Would you like me to read that in? Sure. This is an ordinance providing for the temporary appropriation for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Akron for the period of January 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Committee's report is favorable, and we ask for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This is something we do every year. We get 3 months of the budget for the upcoming year to cover our current expenses until we pass the budget in February or March.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Homobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 11-0.
Councilwoman Homobian?
The second resolution, you're gonna.
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution urging City of Akron to reallocate COVID-19 funds from restaurants to Forever Our Children's shower bus and declaring an emergency.
We had a discussion about this afternoon, and we took time pending information that came to us this afternoon. But even with the information we received from Mr. Wheeler, there were a number of questions that need to be answered before we can move forward. So the committee is requesting time.
Time will be granted. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam President. As I stated, these funds can be allocated for this purpose. Spoke with some of the members that we're seeking consultation from, and they agreed. So it is my hope that next Monday, we can move this ball down the road and fund the shower bus. Again, if there's still concerns from members, there are other sources by which we can find the funding. But, I mean, what a great gift to those in the community who are houseless, than to provide them with a place where they can have a clean shower, even though the bus wouldn't be ready until early January probably. Still, these funds are essential for them to complete the project. So look forward to us finalizing this next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
Time.
Time will be granted. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 0 was the substitute offered as an amendment that was already voted on. Item number 1 is offered by President Somerville. Resolution allowing City Council to conduct its regular meeting at 5 p.m. on Monday, December 11th, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
The request of the committees for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, this is basically formalizing what's been the tradition here at the City Council, that on the last day before an end of a term, council would meet earlier, and that would be at 5 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock, the new council would be sworn in, so that beginning January 1st, they can hit the ground running. So this is more or less formalizing what we've been doing for years. And so we recommend approval this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This resolution passes 11-0. Item number 1A is offered by President Somerville and Councilman Fusco. Ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title III, Chapter 30, Mayor and Council, Section 30.01, Meetings of the Akron Codified Ordinances in order to provide for safe, accessible, and efficient city council meetings and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 1B is offered by President Somerville and Councilman Fusco. Resolution amending Resolution Number 2, 2021 to amend and/or supplement the rules of procedure for the Akron City Council and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will also be referred.
Item number 2, offered by Amobian. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Checker to provide pre-employment background checks and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Amobian,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This afternoon, we had a lot of discussion about this particular vendor. It sounds like this vendor, Check-R, is going to provide some pre-employment background checks and some additional services that we don't currently have with our current vendor. And this is going to save a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 11-0. Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, accept and expend grant funding from Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Studies for the Akron Peninsula Road Multi-Use Trail and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 4, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the construction of the Good Park Golf Course Booster Pump Station and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5 is offered by McKittrick, Fusco, and Holland. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, to accept and expend the Ohio's Urban Forestry Grant Program Inflation Reduction Act grant and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by McKittrick. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, to accept and expend the USDA Forest Service Wood Innovation Grant and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick,
Also consent agenda.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Councilman Freeman. Ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title VII Traffic Code, Chapter 72 Traffic Rules, Section 72.38, and Chapter 76 Parking Regulations, Section 76.15 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Akron, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Refer.
this item will be referred. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to move to public comment period. If you have signed up to speak during this time, we're going to ask that you please stand so that you can be sworn in by our clerk.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do."
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just going to ask, when you hear your name, please approach the podium, and you will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. We're going to begin with Waleed.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do."
I do.
Thank you. Thank you. Just going to ask when you...
Just want to begin by thanking the passage of the resolution. But we all need to understand that the struggle remains. There is still a population, segment of the world's population under siege. And we need to understand that there is a battle of misinformation taking place. Have you ever noticed the Israeli government, whether it's Netanyahu, his government officials, the IDF, always have scripted answers to every question given to them. Questions posed to the American administration are scripted, verbatim. The reason why is because of the Israel document. It is a communication document that walks through how to communicate to the general public, to the press, whether it's pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian. In most cases, it's never pro-Palestinian. Review the document. It's 124 pages long. It walks you through. One of the false narratives of October 7th was the slaughtering of women, the beheadings, grilling. But we fail to also realize that there is a Hannibal doctrine in place, which was exercised by the IDF under the Army Command. Hamas has AK-47s. They don't have missiles. They don't have tanks. The damage that took place indicates highly that it was through missile attacks. This is confirmed by Haaretz. It has been confirmed by several Israeli media outlets. Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal, a few weeks ago came out that indicated that the atrocities 6 hours past that impregnation by Hamas was due mostly in part to a military operation by the Israeli government. All I ask is we have an open mind, we do our research, and we keep in mind there is an indigenous population that is being slaughtered and massacred. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Jahala? Press that button.
You're getting better at saying my name. First of all, thank you for passing the resolution. I'd like to thank the council members recognizing the injustices and suffering of the Palestinian people that they have endured for the past 75 years under this brutal, illegal occupation and displacement. Unfortunately, the atrocities against the Palestinian people continues to this minute, with over 13,000 dead, close to half of them children. More of them are underneath the rubble. 20+ thousand injured, babies dying in NICUs, hundreds of people dying on the West Bank, including children killed by soldiers and illegal settlers armed by the government. Yes, you heard me, state-sponsored terrorism. Thank you, Councilman Neal, Councilman Mosley, for bringing this resolution forward. You will never be forgotten. You'll go down on history as being on the right side of history, I should say. Council members Malik, Fusco, and Somerville, thank you for signing on to this resolution and getting a crash course in the true history of the conflict and not the one-sided narrative. Injustice and humanity are to be called out no matter where it occurs. Friend or foe, it must not be tolerated and must be brought to an immediate end. We as Americans are told and taught to uphold certain values, and we ask our friends and our allies to share our beliefs. When they do not, we must call them out. We must definitely not support them vocally or financially. Illegal occupation and disregard for international law are not American values. Apartheid is not an American value. Hate is not an American value. Dehumanization is not an American value. Collective punishment is not an American value. Denying people food, water, medicine is not an American value. Bombing schools, churches, and mosques and hospitals are not American values. The ministers of this government of Israel are guilty and complicit in violating various laws and must be brought to justice. They spew hate and call for the destruction and expulsion of the Palestinian people. Yet they say the other side is talking that way. Their words, those are their words, not mine. Their behavior not only harmful to Palestinians, but also to Jews around the world. While members of our Jewish community have been hurting and trying to recover from the events of October 7th, we're here to tell you that we feel your pain and we understand about the tragic loss of life. The Palestinian people have been going through that on a daily basis for 75 years. That, coupled with being dispossessed, displaced, uprooted from their ancestral homes and villages, our healing process cannot begin because the suffering is ongoing. It's unfortunate for the suffering to continue when you know the root cause. Our elected officials like to say it's complicated, but actually it's very simple. End apartheid, end the occupation. Liberating the people of Palestine will liberate us all. The members of the Jewish community took a bold step in standing against extremists to seek harm, to dehumanize and delegitimize the Palestinian people's right to live free on a sovereign land in a sovereign state on their own land. To our future mayor, I look forward to you standing for justice, working towards educating our community about the true history of the conflict, and silencing those who spread false narratives. One last sentence, please. Thank you from the children of the light that will never be dimmed, from the cure to the cancer of injustice, from some of the most beautiful creatures that God has ever created, and from the indigenous people of Palestine. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Wesley Martin.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak. This is the first you've seen in my face. I'm here to address the resolution that was passed today and to question why the most crucial pieces of language in the resolution, as proposed to you by the Palestinian members of this community, were largely ignored. Earlier this afternoon, many of the council members celebrated this as a compromise with the necessary expense of no one getting 100% of what they want. While this is an inherent part of the democratic process, there is no room for compromise on the matter of genocide. There is no way to justify your continued refusal to express the immediate need for a ceasefire of the people of Palestine and for the immediate delivery of aid to civilians through humanitarian corridors. And there is no excuse not to address Palestine as the illegally occupied state that it is. You do not have the best interest of your community in mind when you primarily invite Zionists to speak. The former IDF officer that spoke earlier today told us that they put their soldiers on trial if they don't respect the core values of the IDF. He said, quote, "We do everything we can to not hurt civilians." Is that why they are indiscriminately killing civilians by the hundreds every day? Is that why they're murdering civilians as they free south on the routes that the IDF themselves told them to take? Just last week, former head of Israeli security agency said openly on the news, quote, "We are now actually rolling out the Gaza Nakba." Last week, IDF soldiers pretended to help an injured elderly Palestinian man by the name of Bashir Haji, and I say his name because he's not just a statistic, for the camera, and then shot him dead afterwards. They killed an elderly music teacher and then drove her over her dead body with a tank. They shot and killed 2 little girls trying to fill a bucket of water and then killed the father when he ran out to hold their bodies. It's not just the people either. They're even destroying civilian infrastructure like statues and monuments. Jews living in Israel are being silenced, assaulted, and imprisoned for speaking out against their state's violence. Holocaust survivors and the families of Holocaust survivors are recognizing this as a genocide, and Zionists still are not listening. Indigenous people across America, people who know exactly what genocide looks like because they still suffer the intergenerational effects of what their ancestors suffered, are recognizing this as a genocide. This is the final cleansing. The preliminary work has been conducted for the past 3/4 of a century. So you might think Akron doesn't have a direct impact on the conflict over there, but it does. Genocide is felt globally, and any governing body's response to it sets an example for others. By not using active language to specifically call to an end to the genocide against Palestinians, you are signaling to the community and to the world that Akron is okay with the Zionist movement of ethnic cleansing. One last sentence, please. Take a real stance against genocide and call for the violence and the illegal occupation to end once and for all. Until then, people like me will keep speaking out about it, and we will make it known everywhere that the city of Akron stands with imperialism. Thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. And I apologize if I mispronounced the last name. Ali?
Good evening. Before I begin, and just in case my time runs short, I'd like to wish the council members, everyone in this room, and all of your loved ones a happy, healthy, and blessed Thanksgiving holiday. The events that are unfolding in Gaza are painful to watch. Babies, children, women, men, families being bombed, killed, maimed, displaced in front of our eyes. It's gut-wrenching, it's heartbreaking, it's inhumane. But as we enter this holiday season, we should also recognize that what we are witnessing is an inflection point in the brief lifetime that we are blessed with on this earth. It's a test of our true character, an opportunity for us, all of us, to look ourselves in the mirror and to decide who we really are and who we truly want to be. Are we people that stand by and watch, ignore, dismiss the destruction and suffering that's taking place? Or are we people that will stand up and speak out against these atrocities, not to score debate points, but to reject the violence that we see before us, and to come together as a unified community of all backgrounds and faith traditions that recognizes death, destruction, and the suppression of human beings as the enemy of genuine security, peace, and human dignity. A unified community that has the moral courage to focus on and to insist upon long-term sustainable solutions that protect and recognize the need for the safety, security, dignity, and the right to self-determination of all human beings. A unified community that works together with a sincere commitment to mutual collaboration and mutual respect. I would like to congratulate this council for passing a resolution this evening that calls for an end to the violence in Gaza, for an end to the provincial policies and practices that have impeded the path to peace and security for so long, and for taking a step in unifying, healing, and supporting our local Jewish and Palestinian communities as we navigate this crisis and pursue a path forward that protects and respects our collective concerns, families, and futures. I am especially grateful to Councilman Neal and to Councilwoman Mosley for recognizing the need for and leading the effort to pass this resolution. Thank you both so much. Our work, our collective efforts, and our prayers will and must continue. This is a first small step in the right direction. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mitchell?
Hello. Before I speak, I have some papers. Could I give those out?
You can actually hand them to Councilwoman Amobian, and we'll make sure everyone gets a copy.
I have 13, so I'm not sure if I have enough.
Okay.
All right, okay. So, my name is Mitchell Edgecombe. I live on 57 Chelmsford Drive, and I'm here today as a representative for teenagers in Northeast Ohio because we are currently experiencing an epidemic of tobacco that has completely overtaken combustible cigarette use. A 2019 report found that in high schoolers in the state of Ohio, in the past 30 days, 30% of students have reported using a vape or e-cigarette, followed by 10% who have reported using chew, snuff, or dip, and a further 7% who have reported using cigars or cigarillos. As teenagers, we are now in a position where every single one of us has at least one friend or one person we know that is actively addicted to new age tobacco products. And the main reason for this crisis is the increased marketing of flavored tobacco products. For reference, according to a report by the 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey, 43% of all minors who reported using an e-cigarette described the reason for their first hit as the appealing flavors. Okay? Now, one second. I gotta get my train of thought back. Yeah, that is. So. Now, these products, they're not just hooking hundreds of thousands of new teenagers to be addicted to these drugs, but they're also preventing hundreds of thousands of people from quitting, existing addicts. Okay? Because right now, according to a study by the USC Institute for Addiction Science, on 478 adolescent vapors in the Los Angeles area, over a 2-year period, they recorded their use of vapes. They found that 64% of users who used only non-conventional flavored e-cigarettes continued using those products after the 2 years had ended. Compare that to 43% of users who used only menthol or unflavored e-cigarettes. That's a difference of 21%. And so it's not just e-cigarettes that have become a problem, it's also the use of menthol as an additive, because menthol, even though it's been commonly exempt because it's not, it's naturally derived, but it acts as a coolant. It basically masks the unpleasant feeling of the inhaling heated smoke or vapor, so it encourages further use. The CDC reported that if the United States were to ban the sale and distribution of menthol cigarettes, combustibles, 920,000 smokers would quit within the first year and a half. All right? One more. I'm calling on the city of Akron right now to look at my proposal, review it. I would like this proposal, which seeks to ban the distribution and sale of all flavored tobacco products without exemption, because the federal regulation has failed to curb significant tobacco use.
Thank you.
So I'm asking one more thing. I'd asking the city council, please put this ordinance, I'd like this proposal I've drafted to be issued into an ordinance, and I would like it to be put through whatever council body or committee meeting is necessary for it to be drafted into law. Thank you for letting me speak. Sorry for going over.
Thank you, Mitchell. David Garan.
David Garan. There has been some discussion among council members to limit public comment to only 10 people who can speak during public comment. This is reducing the public's ability to educate this council. This education was sorely needed in the Israel-Palestine resolution that you finally passed. Often the public is not allowed to speak at committee meetings, such as last week at the Rules Committee meeting. When a government reduces the public's ability to be involved in its governance, that becomes fascistic and authoritarian. The proposal to limit public comment reduces the ability of the public to petition our government, one of our rights enumerated in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution. Since October 16th, when the Council passed an ignorant statement on Israel, there has been a very high presence of police at council meetings. For this police presence, the taxpayers are paying for additional police overtime, wasting money. Tonight's resolution didn't go far enough. This council needs to impress upon our federal representatives that we must deal with the U.S. complicity in wars in Ukraine and Israel and Palestine. We must not allow Biden and his friends to spend $80 billion for arms to Israel and Ukraine together. Not only the $80 billion for those arms, funding for arms to Taiwan, which China hasn't invaded a country since the 1970s, is also on the table. Additionally, billions of dollars have been promised to continue the U.S. Border Patrol's continuous infliction of detention on poor people coming from countries from Central and South America that the U.S. has been meddling in their country's governments for the purpose of extracting their resources. An example where we, on one hand, are trying to reduce guns. In Cleveland, for over 2 weeks, the Cleveland Police and the State Patrol were confiscating guns, but we want to send more guns to Israel and to Ukraine to continue more war. We need to stop it now. You guys can do that.
Thank you. Reverend John Beatty.
Madam President and members of the council, John Beatty, Wyndham Road. I have seen enough. Pray for Israel. I've seen little Ava, who was burned to death in her home by armed illegal settlers in the West Bank. There are no Hamas fighters in the West Bank, but Ava was Palestinian. I've seen this afternoon a little Palestinian boy whose right leg was amputated without anesthesia in one of the hospitals bombed by the Israeli Defense Force. I have seen how resilient he is in a wheelchair with dreams for the future, despite the tragedy that has been perpetrated on him and his family by the IDF. I have seen dead, dust-covered, bloody Palestinian babies retrieved from the destroyed rubble of Palestinian homes in bombed-out Gaza. But these dead babies are not Hamas terrorists. I watch Al Jazeera. I hear the cries of terror by 1 million Palestinian families who were warned to move south to safe territory in southern Gaza, only to be bombed again after forced to leave their homes and practically all their belongings. But they are not Hamas fighters. They are in an open-air prison that is becoming a concentrated death camp with no way to escape and nowhere to go. I hear the head of the UN begging Netanyahu and Israel to enact a ceasefire so that Palestinians may receive water to drink and to wash their wounds and to flush their toilets, to receive food so they won't starve to death, to receive fuel so the hospitals that are left can run their respirators and ICU equipment on emergency generators, to receive medicines to heal sickness and to survive unbelievable pain. I have heard President Biden echo Netanyahu, that murderer of Israel's dream, to be a light to the nations, that Israel has a right to defend itself, no strings attached. I believe in an almighty God who sees the poor and vulnerable, who hears the cries of the wounded and dying, and is compassionate and will execute judgment on those who show no mercy. I believe we get what we give. If we give hate, we will receive hate. If we give love and forgiveness, we will receive love and forgiveness. Pray for Israel. Pray for Israel that it will stop its ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians and open its heart to love its brothers and sisters in the family of Abraham. Not animals, not grass to be mowed down, but fellow believers in the one true God, Jewish, Muslim, and Christian. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Fran Wilson.
Hello, my name is Fran Wilson. I wanted to talk a little bit about the rules. Couldn't speak during committee today, so came here. It is really tiring from a citizen perspective coming in here. I go to all these meetings, Most of these committee meetings, I'm sitting through hours of them with you, but I'm not in your chair. I don't make these decisions. As a member of the public, to further restrict our access to be at this mic and to speak, to get our thoughts as a constituency on the record, why are you here if you're restricting things? We need more access. We need more ability to share our thoughts. I know that from your side, it's a lot. It's probably been a lot very recently. And for good, it needs to be a lot. You need to have more people at the table and to make that accessible. For those who don't know what's going on right now, Akron City Council is looking at legislation that is looking to restrict public comment to 10 people, to move it to the front of the agenda, and to also crack down on how people sign up for forms and if they're accepted, if they can even hold signs, or they have to come through a security screening. And I'm sorry, I'm not put together because I sat through the same committee meetings that you did today, and they were exhausting. We have very little time as constituents to come and actually get your ear. Please make more room. Please add in more room during committee meetings and a structure to be able to talk during committee meetings. I understand why you, Mr. Fusco, might have not allowed me to speak during committee meeting because you saw that I was giving public comment today. But I took off work to go to that committee meeting. I didn't expect to come tonight if I could speak at the committee meeting. If we could speak at both, that would be great. Some people were at both and said the same thing. So if we could give more access, that would be great. Then I wouldn't be the only one coming week after week saying the same things. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Nick Cassiopo. Is Nick here? Okay. Apostolette.
Good evening again. I'm Apostolette. I'm a presidential candidate for the United States of America for 2024. I'm a woman. I'm a mother. Stop killing our babies. Not only in Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, the United States of America, all of Africa. Our governor signed a Kill More Babies bill. We have teenagers now who are asking you to stop selling tobacco. our boys become men. Our girls become women. Stop killing our babies through this legislation that is in place. Stop killing our babies. I overcame that. Before I do that, I wanted to say, Peter, an apostle, cut off a soldier's ear, but Jesus said, I didn't give you authority for that. Stop cutting off the ears of our babies. Jesus said, great works have I done, greater shall ye do. Today, the Holy Ghost says, I am going to work a miracle through you. When I awakened to this brand new day, this is what the Holy Ghost had to say. Your life, I decided to save. The sting of death and victory over the grave, I overcame that. Your rape, your abuse, your rejection, your self-hatred of you, I overcame that too. Your fear of the unknown, reaping the negativity that you have sown, I overcame that. Now, this is what I require of you. Pray someone else through. Someone needs a word of hope. Someone needs to know about my overcoming power right now, this minute, this second, this moment, this hour. When he gets through talking, I can finish saying what I'm saying because I didn't talk when anybody else was talking. And I demand that men respect me. I know you don't think women are supposed to talk, but I'm talking. Please don't disrespect me.
Apostolette, I'm going to ask that you direct your comments to me, the chair, okay?
I asked the chair to please ask these men who don't think women are supposed to speak to not disrespect me when I'm speaking.
You can continue.
Whatever their struggle or temptation may be, remember to lead them to me. It is by grace and mercy that we speak today, no matter what obstacles may be. Open your eyes, ears, heart, and mind to see. No matter what comes your way, always say, I overcame that.
Thank you, Apostolette. Michael? Yes. Sorry. You can still come through. Come on. You can still come around.
Hello, I'm Michael Carano from Talmadge, Ohio. I thank you for the opportunity to speak here, even though former North Hill person, so I grew up in North Hill, North High, and all that. And I'm speaking on behalf of the resolution. I felt this was important for me to come speak because there's one gentleman, there's a lot of misinformation about this. Many people don't really know the over 100-year history of how Israel came about and all of that. And even like the phrase from the river to the sea, they're using that negatively now against the Palestinians. But the truth is that was first arose out of the Likud party in 1948. So it was an Israeli thing to begin with. But I'm a little dismayed that the resolution, and I was a former city council member in Talmadge, Ohio. I know getting resolutions passed. I've had some experience with the compromising and that. But there's some things that you cannot compromise. You can't compromise genocide. You can't compromise ethnic cleansing. You can't compromise the destruction of a people, 2,300,000 people, that is documented that Israel wants to push those people into the Sinai desert. That's their goal. From the river to the sea is what Israel has been doing to Palestine for the last 75 years, bit by bit, piece by piece. And quite frankly, the United States has never been an honest broker in this, never. They sit there silent while all this goes on. Joe Biden just recently went and to Israel. It was like a tacit approval for them to continue this. So there's some ethical and moral things that cannot be compromised. The murder and genocide of a people that have been oppressed for 75 years, there's no compromise on that. Imagine yourself, you're a 20-year-old Palestinian. You have lived a life that's been some people call it an open-air prison, others rightly call it a concentration camp. For 20 years, you've grown up the indignities of life. You have no freedom. You can't move anywhere. Your calories are being dictated to, the amount of food that you can eat. You don't control the water or anything. I stand with those people. Just like I suggest everybody look up Norman Finkelstein and read his book, Gaza. He has 40 years, a Jewish man who's devoted his life to that, and he says that Hamas has no reason to be condemned. And he uses the African Americans' experience in America, say the Nat Turner, when Nat Turner had and 50 white people died from his insurrection. He says that 230 years of degradation and slavery, that allows, it doesn't justify, but they don't need to apologize. And so I just think, I know my time's short, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Samir? Is Samir here? No? Okay. I apologize if I mispronounce. Is it Azul?
I wanted to make sure you got my name. So, Haq is the last name?
Pronounce it for me.
Azamul Haq.
Yes.
Okay. You know, I was not planning to speak over here, but I was watching your Rules Committee meeting, and I was so outraged by some of the basically lies that were being spoken by the pro-Zionist lobby, so I just decided to come and speak. I want to tell you all, I want to thank you all of you for your service. I know how much time it takes, whatnot, but let's not take what we all have for granted. Because many countries in the world that this government is supporting do not have the right and privilege that you all have to have our own representation to speak to the, like somebody said, you want to limit the comment. You go to Saudi Arabia, go to many of these countries which our government is supporting to keep all the dictators. They cannot speak, they cannot vote, they cannot do anything. So, and I wish those people who are here from Africa and Haiti were still here, and I would tell them what you are seeing in the media, and it's not us, because we are not pro-Zionist. You all are not pro-Zionist in a sense. We don't support racism, we don't support apartheid, we don't support occupation. Irrespective of what the Zionist lobby may say, we are not it. You guys are not it, and you proved it today. And I wanted to say, I made a new friend today, Mr. Henderson. In a couple of minutes, this is what we are in Akron. We are brotherly people, we respect each other. And he was telling me his story, his son, Ibrahim, 2 years ago, and he gave the excuse to Councilor Mosley, that's the reason he didn't attend your wedding. Is that correct? This is who we are. And I was telling him, what is Ibrahim? Ibrahim is the father of all our faith, our Muslim, our Christian, our Jew, all our fathers are there. We are practicing all the same prophets, from Abraham to Moses to Jesus and to Muhammad. So we're all the same. And here, somebody, occupying our land, killing people. What if I ask you all, what would you guys do if you see Henderson's 2-year-old son, and by the way, he mentioned he wants to come to our mosque. That's what we are. I just met him, and we are Akronites. We don't support racism. We don't support occupation. We don't support killing of babies. And just tell me, all of you are asking you, if you saw somebody murdering Henderson, 2-year-old Ibrahim's son, you would be sitting and not doing nothing. So thank you for what you did today, but we need to keep this thing going. Thank you.
Thank you. Janos?
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? Those are the words of the famed African-American poet and communist Langston Hughes. Last week, the City Council elected to defer on a resolution condemning the violence in Gaza. As of November 13th, over 11,000 Palestinians were declared dead. Now every hospital in Gaza lies in rubble, and 15,271 Palestinians lie dead, including 6,403 children. When the October 7th attacks came, mainstream media cried about 40 dead Israeli babies with no evidence. But 6,000 dead children doesn't elicit a sound. Last week's resolution was the dream of many Akronites, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, age, or gender, and y'all chose to defer this resolution for a week while the bodies continued to pile up. As much as I am glad that the council has voted in favor of the resolution, I feel some criticisms must be made. As a historian, I must say that the city council members are some of the most difficult history students I have ever seen. I am sure that my Palestinian comrades from last week who signed their ties to the land and a certain history teacher who spoke would agree with me. I don't know of any students aside from this council who tell their teachers that their time is up after 3 minutes or cut their mics mid-speech. 3 minutes is not enough to explain a genocide, as anyone who has spoken on Palestine here can attest to. Worse than not listening, you also refused to change your statements for multiple weeks and elected to defer the dream of your people. Furthermore, you proposed an amendment to limit the number of speakers during your meetings to 10 and have not demilitarized the APD. You still have not called for a ceasefire and have not cut ties with Kiryat Akron. That resolution also calls for the restriction of signs. You think you can simply do what you want since most of you got reelected by virtue of being the only one on the ticket for your war, but you must remember that these public comments exist and that they will be online forever. The situation in Gaza is growing worse. Israel is working on the Ben Gurion Canal to compete with Suez. That canal's route is going through Gaza. Even if it is rerouted, it will go through other parts of occupied Palestine. Cancel your contracts with apartheid companies like HP and cut all ties to Kiryat Akron. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Ashley White.
Hello. I want to talk first about the proposed resolution to limit the time and the amount of people who can speak at these meetings. It doesn't make sense to me because clearly the city has a group of people who are passionate about what's happening in the city, and they've come forward to talk about it. This seems to be a direct response into the people who have been coming to talk about what's happening in Palestine, and a way to silence these voices because maybe some people don't agree with them. I would like to remind you that you're representatives, that we are telling you what we want directly, and that's something that you should enjoy because it makes your job easier to represent us. Second, I want to talk about the resolution that was passed for Gaza, but seemed to be watered down. I've heard that they were in the meeting earlier today. There seems to be a feeling that everything needs to be equal, balanced. We have to hear from both sides. But one side is committing a genocide, so we don't have to hear from them. We don't need their opinion. We had earlier a former IDF soldier come in and talk about how lovely and wonderful the Israeli military is and how gentle they are when they kill people. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's oxymoron. So I think that instead of doing that, we should listen to the people, listen to our Palestinian brothers and sisters who are here every day, week after week, to talk about what's happening. I just think that it's very performative to say we need both sides to speak, when we can all see that a genocide is happening, when experts are saying genocide is happening, and Israel is saying that they are committing a Nakba, another Nakba. So why are we doubting them too? Everybody's saying it. I also want to talk about going back to the limiting of public comment. I don't understand where the council decided that was a good idea. It seems that the city of Akron is becoming more and more fascist. We are deciding that we can't have people comment. We're deciding that we're going to keep our flock cameras up to track citizens and surveil them. We're going to keep sending our police force to Israel to be trained so they can have a militarized police force. We're sending the police to parks to attack children who are there, apparently. The 4 children that were attacked in the park a few weeks ago. We're killing citizens, Jalen Walker, for having a busted taillight. So I don't know how much more fascist we can get before people start coming up here to say things. But I just think that if you take away the ability for people to speak, people are not going to be happy. And they should have the ability to speak and tell you what their feelings are about Palestine, about what's happening in the city, and anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Amir Yassin.
Good evening. Mothers and fathers, before all, I want to just very short express my feeling and my experience in my journey. It was no Hamas in 1968. It was no Hamas in 1948. When my grandfather was shot, I traveled all over the world without no citizen, no passport. We have to go through checkpoint to checkpoint. Nobody knows or experience what pain is like the one who experiment. I experienced that. I want to speak here on behalf of those children who's dying every single day, every minute. As we're speaking, they're getting slaughtered. I don't want you to be blind and be fooled or manipulated by somebody who is just interested in money and business, and they consider themselves democratic and all these words. I don't know how to express it. I want to just speak to you freely. There's a lot of lie. Somebody's stealing our freedom. Somebody's stealing our democracy. I lived here for almost 30 years. My children were born here. They grow up here. There is a lot of work need to be done. I love this country. I appreciate the opportunity that you guys given me tonight to speak. In a different country, I wouldn't be able to speak, even to say that I'm a Palestinian, even in some of the countries. You don't even know what it is like. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, first of all. But I want to tell you this really from my deepest my heart. We have a lot of things to work, to do. This country is great and superpower, not with military. It can be a superpower with the humanity, civilization. It can be greater than any country. I lived in Europe, I seen development, a lot of things, from a sidewalk, education, health system, everything. And I'm wondering why we don't have this stuff here, where it can be much better. We should be better and leading the world with our diversity, the differences what we have here. We all come from different countries. We can make America great, but not by taking side of somebody who's stealing our brain, our mind, and manipulating us and gaslighting, and go take our tax money and kill innocent children, infant. And who called that he is killing animals? He is really, yes, he's killing animals. You can go look in the media. Cats, dogs, bird is being also killed. Just wanted to bring that. Thank you again.
Thank you. Acacia Reynolds.
Good evening, Council, Madam President. I was flabbergasted by listening to some of my fellow speakers tonight. Because I work for most of the day, I can't be here on Monday until this meeting. And I'm sitting here in this meeting and hear that you're talking about limiting our time to speak to you? How dare you? This is the only opportunity we have to speak to you, short of somehow figuring out email or something that we can get to. This is the most public forum we have to speak to you, our representatives in this city. Don't you dare limit that. That is the most un-American thing I've heard in a long time, to limit our access to you, our representatives. I really don't feel like I should have to chide you like children. But where does this make sense to you? I've grown up my entire life in the United States of America. I have been a proud member of voting since I was of age to vote. I spent lots of time working with my state legislature before I was even allowed to vote. Somewhat as an indentured child, but you know, that would be my parents' rearing of me. I can't imagine any other body in this entire country saying that they are going to limit access to the people that they supposedly are serving. Please, please, you are better than this. I know a lot of you, I have spoken to a lot of you personally, and I know you are better than this. Let's not have any more talk of limiting the access to the people you serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Ebony Brown.
If on November 20th, 2023, you decide to check in on your positions on genocide, I'm not going to clap for you guys. I'm sorry, earlier today, when I lost my composure speaking about Palestine, I could not get my talking points out, so I'm going to have to compress two different sections into one. But last week you asked for more time to gather more voices, and you brought some of the most egregious Zionist voices in Akron. I'm sorry if I could not speak coherently after hearing an IDF soldier say how gentle their military is. I apologize for not keeping my composure and being able to speak to you about the many different issues, and I know my time is limited. The different points that we laid out in the resolution have now been infiltrated with Hospira Zionist talking points. So some of the language that is used with the two-party solution, while simultaneously condemning and trying to eradicate Hamas, we then would have a two-party state where Israel runs Israel, the state that's currently killing hundreds, thousands of civilians, now would be the running party of this. That makes no sense. The Palestinians don't get a say. Sorry, my phone. Let's continue. We were not asking yourself, or we were asking you to align yourself with the oppressed. We were not asking you what you thought you were capable of. We do not believe that this resolution is actually going to change the situation in Gaza right now. So we asked you to align yourself with the oppressed. When you compromise with the oppressed and the oppressor, you are trying to create a lighter, prettier oppression, and that is not what we are asking for. Another thing about some statistics in Gaza. Over 800 lineages are wiped off the historic record, meaning for those of you who are Christian, some of the oldest Christians in the world are going extinct right now. Some of those people are related to Jesus. This is the most densely populated place on the planet, and they pushed them, or they half the size in which they are able to live in, doubling the density in which they are able to stay at. There are more Palestinians being removed than what was removed in the entire Nakba, in 1/5 the size. I have more to say, but I will be back next week. And I would also like to say, y'all who are waiting for things to go back to normal, welcome to the new normal. We will not stop talking about this.
Thank you, Ebony. Going to ask that you please maintain order in the chambers. Andrew Patrick.
As of this evening, over 13,000 Palestinians have been murdered by the Israeli state in its ongoing campaign of genocide since October 7th. As of this evening, untold thousands of Palestinians have been wounded, and more than 6,500 are still missing underneath the rubble across Gaza. As of this evening, the Palestinians in Gaza have next to no necessities in terms of food, water, medical supplies, and working infrastructure to help facilitate humanitarian needs. The Palestinians in Gaza are currently under the tremendous risk of disease, famine, and exposure to the elements, especially as the weather begins to worsen during the winter months. The resolution that has just been passed by City Council this evening is the absolute bare minimum of what is required in this moment. Council ought not to congratulate itself just yet. The situation in Palestine and Gaza in particular is still beyond dire. A genocide is still unfolding as I speak and as we all speak. Council must continue to actively support the Palestinian people and the Palestinian members of the Akron community. And just for what it's worth, not a single person here or anywhere owes any condolences whatsoever to a government that practices genocide, fascism, and apartheid. I don't know about anyone else here, but I make no peace with oppression. The demands of the Palestinians and of the Palestinian people remain the same. Ceasefire now in Gaza and across Palestine, lifting the siege of Gaza, an end to the occupation of Palestine, and the enactment of the right of return of all Palestinian refugees to return to their homes in Palestine.
Thank you. Charlie Pruitt.
I'm here because of the resolution that got hijacked earlier today. It is one that is just further documentation of Akron City Council's history of suppression when faced with calls to action, calls to have a heart and use your power for something good. When we came to you and demanded you to stop legitimizing Zionism, and you saw how many of us there were, that we wouldn't stop anytime soon, this is the plan that I think was cooked up in panic shortly after we brought the topic of stopping genocide to the council. Step 1. Let's offer Palestinians an opportunity to have direct input and say in what goes into the first draft of the resolution so that they feel heard and check off that box. Step 2, let's bring it to council, but stall a week to allow for quote unquote more voices. That sounds innocent enough, right? Step 3, let's bring the Zionists of Akron to the table in the name of fairness so that we can respond to community input that aligns more with our own Zionist values. And now we can spread rhetoric we are more comfortable with. Now we can say things like two-state and Israel has a right to exist. That way when people say you're using Zionist talking points or you're promoting genocide, we can say we were just responding to community input. We were compromising with all voices, as if all these voices are equal, as if oppressor and oppressed get equal say on oppression. Let's use what these Zionists are saying in the final draft. Step 4, let's make sure the Zionists of Akron know about this meeting today and get to speak as a united front on the support of the Zionist Resolution 2.0, including an IDF soldier to have recordings of Zionist propaganda that we can nod our heads to without having to be the ones to say it ourselves. Step 5, pass the resolution. Now that we can say we listened and responded to our pro-Palestine constituents, we can put more restrictions on our public comment period in an attempt to silence and reduce their power in these meetings. This is nothing new, but it is cruel and despicable to take these people who actually care when people are dying and dangle false hope, and then force them to listen to killers justify killing. It's not going to stop anything, but good luck trying.
Thank you, Charlie. Vicki Armstrong.
Evening, I'm Vicki Armstrong, 700 Wellesley Avenue in Akron. I come tonight for 3 reasons. First of all, I come to thank Council for finally voting on the resolution to support all the peoples who've been victims of war in Israel and Palestine. I was distressed to hear it did not pass last week. Reverend Beatty was kind enough to give me a copy of that resolution. I didn't understand why people could not vote for it. The most vulnerable people in the world are being systematically killed. But also, the most vulnerable people in the city of Akron are being pushed out of the places that they have been put in on the streets of Akron. I came to this council several years ago and brought the idea of a mobile shower for the homeless. It was before the pandemic. I can no longer find that speech I gave then, but it was recounting what one church had done by itself for their community at a cost of less than $5,000. Councilwomen Amobian and Mosley both expressed interest in the idea of our city doing the same thing here. Councilwoman Mosley said she would try to get in the budget. Of course, that did not happen. And still today, this council has kicked the can down Market Street, where we find so many of our homeless from the east side of Akron to the Fairlawn city limits in the west. Still waiting for the gears of government to turn, when someone could have picked up the phone and demanded the answer to the request that was sent to them about whether the council could spend the money from the, the plan that was for the pandemic. They're still waiting. The people who live in our streets are still waiting for some help. I'm continually appalled by the lack of timely help to those most in need in our community, by people who sleep in comfy beds, in warm houses with toilet, sink, and shower facilities. I hope the council, people sitting here next year, will do better. I hope the city of Akron will do better than kicking people out of the only shelter they have. And thirdly, I'd like to thank Ms. Mosley-Weems, Mr. Neal, and Ms. Amobian, who have been in the forefront of trying to get the city to provide help for the most vulnerable among us. Ms. Mosley-Weems, Mr. Neal, thank you so much for your kindness and listening to someone who is not in your ward. I have considered you my council persons for quite some time. Best wishes on your journeys past this horseshoe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Armstrong. Jason Alden.
Hello. Don't know what to say. I'm going to speak. I think it's important to know. I've been saying this this is how I've been introducing myself, but I'm just going to speak as a victim of state-sanctioned terrorism here in Akron, Ohio, done by the Akron police. I want to continue, while I still have the right to just kind of freely speak for 3 minutes, to continue my story that I started the first time I spoke at one of these. And I think I ended with Officer Sprague. I was just calling him out because he had been involved in several other police brutality incidents that still have not been reviewed by the Oversight Board. It wasn't just Sprague that beat me. It was, I counted in my video because I was recording, at least 17 other officers that charged me. Shamus said he may have shown you the video. I'm not sure if he has, but it's out there and y'all can see it. It's just this pattern that I'm picking up on. For me, it started pretty extreme with the violence. That's what brought me to the meetings week after week, which is soon going to be not allowed anymore. It's going to be once every 30 days. It started with the extreme violence, the getting multiple open wounds that no one in the Summit County Jail tended to. They all said that I didn't need medical attention. Even though one of the wounds was on my head and I was acting all loopy, I had a concussion. I didn't have it the worst. I think the worst might have been the dude that they sat down in the chair outside of my cell. His shoulder had been dislocated from being tackled by the police for peacefully protesting. It's fascism. And now you're not wanting to hear this. You're not wanting to hear anyone's trauma. And you know how much it takes to speak through trauma? To people you see as almost solely responsible. I'm like, Sprague's just doing what he's told. I mean, he's definitely guilty, but it's y'all. And here, now, it's just amazing that I shouldn't even be shocked, like, that you're taking away our freedom to tell you our stories. And, like, I just can't believe you guys can look at, like, it's amazing to be in your guys' presence. It's amazing. It really is. This is a moment in time, y'all. It's crazy. And I want what's best for all of us, for you guys too. I want you guys to have peace too. I don't want anything to happen. And it's crazy that y'all want bad shit to happen to us. It's crazy. But peace, y'all.
Thank you. William Reynolds.
Oh boy, I had something planned to say, and well, yeah. I'm going to start off with a minor thing, but it's important. The legislation under budget number 2 with Checker, I believe it is a good company. However, they actually go through county records. They do not differentiate between a crime that's been dismissed, a charge that's maybe been dismissed, maybe the person was improperly charged. I ran into that driving Uber, and I tried to fix that, and it went nowhere. I hope I don't offend anyone tonight. I brought the Gadsden flag, don't tread on me. That came about several hundred years ago and formed this great nation we have, this nation that many of us are proud of. It basically speaks of the threat if you try to, the warning of the snake itself. It speaks to the threat of oppression. Why would you speak out against oppression? I mean, you let people be oppressed here in Akron. What I equated it to in my head is you guys are committing genocide of the American dream to the citizens you are supposed to be representing. I agree with there should be some changes with the public comments. They should be at the beginning of the meeting so that, you could hear feedback before you vote. I also know that some of you think you are acting nobly in trying to defend public servants, trying to give their voice. And yes, that can be noble, but if they're bullying people and they're being improper, you are now a bully. Now, I didn't make it to this meeting earlier that talked about this legislation, but I can only predict, based on records, Mr. Fusco brought up limiting people speaking. I could be wrong, but it's my guess. Mr. Fusco, the only reason you get reelected is because people don't listen. We need more citizens to listen and watch your conduct. Next time you're coming around, I'm running against you. And I'm going to fight to quell some of the horrible things that have come from you in representing the citizens. I want to call out my wife for being awesome on what she said tonight. She makes me proud.
Thank you, William. We do have some individuals who are joining us virtually. We want to give them an opportunity. Pastor Gregory Harrison, are you online?
I am online.
Okay, you can begin your comments.
Good evening, everyone. I want to wrap up two comments in one. And I want to first use the mayor's letter of explanation of not funding Mr. Eric Garrett. I think that letter really speaks to the anger of the citizens as to why public comments would be limited. There's two members of council that are aware of the situation that I went through. And as I read his explanation, it almost read as the same thing that happened to me. And I don't want to get into what happened to me. But I think the mayor taking the opportunity to shape the narrative, but not show up to speak to the issue. We're talking about $30,000 that would fund 2 students. That's all. We're talking about $30,000 that would fund 2 students, not sewing into Mr. Garrett's Barber College, not doing anything else. We have an Elevate Akron report that says minority businesses, Black businesses have been excluded, not left out, but they've been excluded. We have that report. We have a youth violence issue that's going on. We have all of this money that we're throwing at the problem, but Mr. Garrett is employing people. Not only employing people, but he is making them business owners. And that is what we're trying to do to raise the population in Akron. Which takes me to my next point. Public commenting, limiting public comment period. It is unfair that Mayor Dan Horrigan has the opportunity to shape a narrative without a proper response. Limiting public comment reduces the public's ability for a proper response to anything. The only option, if you limit public comment, if we can't speak in council chambers, then we'll speak at your house. And the other option is, and it's not other, it's and, we need to put term limits on the ballot because we cannot continue to be dictated when we can speak, when we can't speak, and then have someone speak to a situation that we have no ability to respond. So I just would ask that you would consider what the response has to be if you limit public comments in the chambers. The response should be, we come to your house and speak. And we should put on the ballot to have term limits for council members. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Pastor Harrison. Again, we're going to ask you refrain from clapping and give respect to those who are speaking so that we can hear. And I hope that I don't mispronounce the name. Sarah?
My name is Sarah.
Sarah, thank you. I apologize.
No problem. My name is Sarah, and I'm here to express my disappointment in a city council that until today didn't pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. On October 16th, this council condemned the violence of Hamas with a resolution that passed unanimously. However, this body had been silent when it came to passing resolutions that condemned the bloodshed that had killed thousands of Palestinians before October 7th, 2023. This body picking and choosing which injustices to condemn is completely unacceptable and does not represent the ideals of my fellow Akronians. Akron constituents who love humanity and speak truth to power, as you have seen these past several weeks. The resolution that has passed this evening is one that demands a humanitarian ceasefire in Palestine. One toe in the right direction. However, this resolution should also unequivocally demand this country to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel or any entity for funding the destruction of innocent Palestinians. I am proud of the voices of my fellow Akron citizens who had advocated consistently against the initial resolution passed by this body. By population, the Gaza Strip would be the 5th largest city in the United States, where more bombs were dropped in the span of a week than in the span of a year in Afghanistan. Today, over 13,000 Palestinians are forever gone. School buildings, hospitals, churches, grocery stores, neighborhoods are forever gone. The Palestinian fight for justice is not synonymous with denying the rights and security of Jewish people. It is a stand against Zionist policies. Just as the ongoing Black American fight for justice is not synonymous with denying the rights and security of white people. It is a stand against white supremacy. It is the responsibility of this entire council to remain informed, not only on the happenings of our city, but the happenings of a crisis you wrote a resolution on. We citizens of Akron will not stop speaking about injustice. As a collective, we should refuse to tell future generations that in the midst of ethnic cleansing, we were silent and we stood by and did nothing. With factually informed views, audacious statements, and progressive resolutions being passed from today, our city council can be a shining example for cities across the country that enough is enough, and U.S. support of Palestinian genocide, Congolese genocide, Sudanese genocide, every genocide needs to end now.
Thank you. James Quinn.
Hi, so I was going to come to you and talk to you about genocide and point to the various parts of international law and compare it to what is happening in Palestine with the illegal settlements of the West Bank, like near Hebron, and the mass murder of civilians in the Gaza Strip, and the removal of civilians from North Gaza. But as I did my research, I came across a point that spoke to me more as an indigenous person living under the settler colonial system that is the so-called United States. Israel's total lack of acknowledgement of their genocide and genocidal rhetoric, and how much that mirrored the United States' lack of acknowledgement of the genocide they committed onto my people. In fact, it mirrors most colonial powers that have committed genocide. Colonial powers almost never acknowledge that they are committing genocide. I think it's an important point to understand when looking at this, that it is not a new thing for a colonial power to deny that it is committing or has committed genocide, despite it being widely accepted. For the United States genocide of natives, many well-renowned genocide scholars have all concluded that the mass slaughter, ethnic cleansing, forced sterilization, and other horrors all constituted genocide, despite the illegal backing not officially declaring it as such. For the massacres in Palestine, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has called on aid to help prevent a genocide. Former top United Nations human rights official Craig Mockber has declared the situation a genocide before then quitting in protest. And over 800 scholars and practitioners of international law have signed on to a letter warning of a possible crime of genocide ongoing, and that's just in the last month, not factoring the 75 years of occupation. I think that the resolution is incredibly tame and did not go far enough in calling for independent investigations, e.g. not originating from Israel and not originating from the United States, into the crime of genocide and the numerous human rights violations that have occurred in Gaza since the 7th and earlier, and could go further in calling on our senators and congresspeople to act now to stop the slaughter of innocent lives for yet another settler colonial project. With my extra time, I'd like to talk about the new rules being pushed to council to silence public comments. It's just yet another sign that this council is attempting to censor the public and delegitimize their body. It's been mentioned by other speakers that people don't come to council because they don't have faith in y'all, and I think it's important to reiterate. Y'all taint every process you're in, from housing issues to houseless issues to the police oversight boards not being brought up despite already being voted on, to towing contracts, and you're too busy telling people what they want to hear instead of actually speaking to them like human beings. I have some respect for a select few members of council, like Councilwoman Mosley or Councilman Neal, for example, but unfortunately, the body as a whole has shown time and time again that it is pay to play, and I just can't afford y'all's rates. And finally, end Israeli apartheid, end the occupation, free Palestine.
Thank you, James. Is Lillian Barnes online with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
I'm sorry I'm not in. I'm here, but I'm out here because I have COVID. So I do apologize that I cannot come in there to speak because you guys know I do not do this online stuff. But I'm asking you guys, I'm piggybacking after everybody because I did not know you guys were planning on trying to limit our time of speaking, which we have voted for you guys. Once again, why would you silence us? This is the only opportunity that we can sit up here and be able to talk and get our thoughts out, get our frustrations out, whether you like it or not. We might not sit up there and agree to everything that you guys do. You might not agree with what we do. But at the end of the day, them are still our seats. We voted for you guys. You did not vote for us. You asked for our votes. We paying you guys to sit in them seats. Please don't take our voices away. Don't silence our freedom, because that's what's keep on going on now. I'm going to piggyback off of some more stuff. When it comes down to Jalen Walker, why is the Citizens Review Board is still not being able to investigate officers? What is going on with council of not making sure that they can do their job? Something that we voted for. Are they wasting our money? Please stop wasting our money. We want our children to live, whether it's in Palestine, Israel, or anywhere else. We need our children. They are our future. Why is it keep on having these babies keep on being killed and nobody did not want to sit there and pass? Where's Nancy at? I told you, Nancy, if you're listening, I want your seat. If you don't want to do your job and be there and do the right delegacies by your daggone community, then give up your seat. I'm not playing. Get off. We're paying you. And then Miss Somerville, I did speak to you about Michelle Wright last week. She still have not gotten a call. I got a message today from her saying that her son was supposedly rocking back and forth. Her son is autistic, just like how I have sorry, but he ended up falling. He had to go to the ER and have stitches in his head or whatnot, all underneath the foster care system. CPS, it has more rights than what what we have as moms and everything else. Please demand them to give her kids back. This should not be continue to go on over truancy. So once again, free Palestine, freedom for all. Please sit up here and take the consideration when it comes down to the Citizens Review Board. I'm sorry for the young man's name. I could not remember it, but he got beaten and everything else. Nothing was still not done. When is it going to stop? I have a son who is a Black male, and I don't want nothing to happen to my son over APD. I told you guys, I'm not a peaceful mom. I would sit up here and be as loud as possible. I'm going to destruct, not construct. Thank you.
Lillian, thank you so much. And if you can, please, let that young lady know to check her email or voicemail. I did leave her a message. Thank you. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We're now going to go through our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman. Rules, Councilman Freeman. Okay, we got it. 2 o'clock. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. 3 o'clock. I think he's having some issues with sound. Parks and Recreation, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
And Public Utilities and Green Committee will meet at 2:45. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you, Madam President. Few things. First, I want to speak to what Pastor Harrison stated on his public comment about BEBC Barber College. The college is not a problem. They are part of the solution for the city. They have assisted a lot of young men and women in ways that those who even received youth violence funds have not been able to. They have impacted those young people's lives and changed a lot of those lives. And it's just unfortunate that the email was made about Mr. Garrett instead of about the school. One of the things that disturbed me was stating that maybe his model wasn't working. I think it's working, but to try to point out the monies that the college, not Mr. Garrett, has received is like pointing out all the nonprofits we've given money to over the years. If we take the money since I've been here that we've given to other individuals who are doing great work in this city and put it up against Mr. Garrett's, I can guarantee you several of them will outweigh the monies that has went to the college, not Mr. Garrett. I think we need to keep that in mind. This wasn't money for Mr. Garrett, who, by the way, is about to be part of this horseshoe in a couple weeks, but to a college that is helping our young men and women. So I actually had to read the email a couple times because it was very disheartening to me to know that we have an administration who has visited that school, took pictures with those kids, been to ribbon cuttings. Now all of a sudden they don't have a model that works. It's very disappointing. We don't say that when we give money to the other organizations or the schools, but we say that about the school where most of the minority students in this city go. But I digress. But it was wrong. And it's unfortunate that over the years they've been used as a backdrop, but now they're a problem. So I hope that this new administration will address it in a meaningful way. I think it's overdue. And lastly, one of the young men said something about us passing this resolution and it being noble. I don't see passing this resolution as being noble. It was the right thing to do, and it was overdue. One of the quotes that I hold near and dear to me is the one by Martin Luther King that says, "Our lives begin and end the day we become silent about things that matter." What is going on over in Gaza matters. Every day when someone is sending me a video of a dead child, it matters. It should matter to all of us. Most of us around this horseshoe, we have children, we have grandchildren. I have 12 grandchildren. It is heavy seeing these videos of these babies, watching them being washed before they're buried. So when we talk about being noble, the noble thing for us to do was to raise our voice. That was a noble thing for us to do. Now, this is just the beginning. Now this is about bringing people to the table to having meaningful conversations about why we say we're a welcoming city and why we're a welcoming community. Now it's time for us to put some action into those words. This is just one step. As someone who, before my time on the National League of Cities Board of Directors, which is where all the elected officials across the country meet, I plan on taking this resolution and sending it over to them so they can send it to our other municipalities, so hopefully they will do the same. Councilman Neal is the past president of NBC Leo, so he has a voice over there where he can have them send it to their municipalities, so we are even a larger voice. This is not just a piece of paper for me. It's not just a piece of paper for us. This is about us making sure that there's meaningful change, not just here in this city, but across this country. Those babies' lives depend on us doing that. Thank you.
Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate all that's been shared. The public comment period, I said this earlier, the 10 people that the resolution is asking for that change, I agree with 10 people that speak before if it's pertaining to something that's on the agenda that's going to be voted on that day. But public comment period at the end of the day should stay as is for as many people to come down here to speak. I don't know where this speak once every 30 days comes from. I don't know who chose that, but that definitely can't fly. I think one of the reasons why this council has stumbled over itself, my colleague mentioned National League of Cities. It is where state municipalities come to collaborate and have a national voice. But it's also where legislators come from across the country to learn best governance practices. Check the record. This council refuses to educate itself on best practices, on how policy is supposed to be shaped and work, and on how council is supposed to run. That's why we keep having all these problems. Check the record. And one of the things that's most shameful is that this council, since I've been here, there have been individuals, and you can check the records on individuals who have taken those courses, has refused to educate itself on the budget. And that is scary. That is scary because all you will be is not educated but indoctrinated to the dysfunctional practices of how this city has worked over time. This city's real finances will come to light once the ARPA dollars and COVID dollars dry up. Mayor-elect, to protect yourself, a forensic audit is needed of this city's books. Not an audit by a sister body of government, but a forensic audit. For 30 plus years, that hasn't been done. And it's not to say that, well, take it for what folks want to take it for. But on the best interest of the city, your administration, and the citizens of Akron, the books need to be audited. I also would like for this council to consider auditing its practices. A resolution that came in that this council needs to audit its policies and practices. Just from what we've heard from our constituents about what was brought in today shows a disconnect. I would like to say this. I want to appreciate the brothers that are here from the Palestinian community, appreciate those who came from the Jewish community earlier. As difficult as this was, the process that was used. Appreciate Councilman Fusco, Councilman Malik, President Somerville. As imperfect as it was, it's a start. We have to create opportunity for us to dialogue and communicate with one another so that we're not operating in silos. That's how we're going to move this ball forward. For those who have an interest, my time on this council is coming to an end, but my time of activism in this community started long before I got on this council and will continue when I get off. I pledge my support to work with you and all those that want to so that we can continue to move this ball forward. I served as a co-vice chair for the Race, Equity, and Leadership Committee for National League of Cities. Out of that came working with the Kellogg Institute, the National Day of Racial Healing. It's a national platform. I will make sure that our clerk has it so she can put it on the website. Anyone that wants to work on behalf of this city to educate on international policy and challenges as well as local, I pledge my support to work with you. But this has been a privilege of mine to learn from others, and I look forward to continue to learn and to grow and to address the issues here, not just here abroad. If you hear from our brothers from the continent, they're dealing with some of the same issues we're dealing right here in this city. So we are a global community, and we have to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. Just wanted to, again, thank those in attendance who commented. And I think all of us around this horseshoe will recognize that oftentimes what is done after a lot of discussion and whenever there's an issue, a budget, an ordinance, at the end of the day, oftentimes, no, not everyone is happy, and we're not. And what's going on, I think, in Gaza and in Israel, the thing of it is that I believe, and we all believe this, and that is what we do next, where we grow from here, and that's meaningful, I think, and that's what we have to do. So with that, I also wanted just a couple things. Number one, I just want to be straight up in terms of saying we do, just for the record, that we do get audited annually by the state auditor, and that what happens is that, as a matter of fact, a few years ago, we were audited and we were instructed what we need to do is, by the state auditor, that can consolidate we had too many funds, if you will, and so consolidate and put them under and to make it easier, whatever the case was back whenever that was, a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. But we are audited, just to make sure that's clear for the record in terms of that. And the other piece I think that's very important that we need to clear for the record, just so we're all understanding and all on the same page, is that our police department, they don't go to Israel for training. They haven't, they're not planning on it, it's not gonna occur, and it hasn't in the past. So I think that's important. Again, just some things, and I understand, it's, whenever we look at issues, we say, well, maybe more like this or more like that, and, try to pick apart or whatever. But in terms of that piece and also the auditing piece, we do get audits, and we do not send police officers to Israel for training. Just to clear the record, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else coming before council? We have a motion to adjourn. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding. Please exit the chambers at this time. Thank you.